Fist flying, no bounds. Podcast kings, we pound for pound. UFC thrills, stills nights get loud. Big EQB, that's how we get down.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GRP Sunday edition, recap edition. Strange weekend. Very strange weekend. Some weird, freaky kind of stuff going on in MMA. The weather here, it's raining. That's weird. That came out of nowhere. We haven't gotten rain in a while, so I guess it's a good thing we have rain, but it's just so strange. I got woken up this morning by thunder. I wasn't expecting that. I've been feeling weird all weekend. We have a good friend in the hospital. That sucks. So hopefully she feels better soon. We're worried about that one, and you know that makes for weird times. And then when it's like gloomy outside, I mean, normally we're like, hey, you know, I'm sure everybody's like, hey, thank God it's raining, you know, it's like we needed it or whatever, but it's just a gloomy day and it's strange. The way the fights went down last night was weird. Just this whole damn weekend. I feel like this whole week has been weird. Just strange things happening off and on. So I'm hoping for a better week coming up. Because, you know, we just need to get out of this funk. Maybe I'm just in a funk, maybe, I don't know. But it just seems like a lot of stuff going on around. And it's it brings you down. we need to be brought back up. And I was like, damn, we got some fights this weekend. I'm gonna watch these fights and have a good time. You know, the weekend has felt off to me too. Hopefully tomorrow and this week. Oh yeah, definitely. Trend in the chat. How's it going? Back to streaming. Tenant Trend. Go follow her everywhere on Twitch, especially. Yeah, she's streaming games and having a good time again. Finally, she has some time. She got her problems worked out with her setup, so I'm glad to see you back, Trent. Hopefully you can get a steady schedule going again like you used to. But yeah, I guess that's one good thing that happened. But yeah, it's been weird stuff, man. So I'm hoping that this week coming up is better. We're moving right into a pay-per-view fight week. And this one feels good. I feel like we have some good fights to look forward to. It's not like the best card in the world overall, but for me, for my money, that main card, that looks good to me, and I'm interested in all these fights. So, thank you, Mom. Appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully she's doing well soon. She's just stuck in that hospital and hopefully getting better instead of not getting better, of course, but yeah. But yeah, this main card coming up this weekend looks good to me. Merab versus Sean rematch. Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison for a belt there as well. Lots of shit talking going on in that one. We got Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. Mario Batista versus Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix finally in the UFC making his debut. Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. So those are some good fights. I mean, Cheeto was supposed to fight on this card. Sucks that he got injured and can't fight. But, you know, that led way for Patchy Mix. So I think he got injured is what I remember. Yeah, who else we got? Johnny Walker. Sergey Spivak. Chaos Williams. All right, some decent fights down in the prelims too. But yeah, we'll be hitting all those up here on Thursday. So make sure you come back on Thursday to look, check out the preview for UFC 316 happening next weekend. And of course, we'll talk about the watch party and all that other good stuff. But as for now, besides all the weirdness going on in life in general and everything around me, those fights were atrocious. So that's what we're here to talk about. Before we go too deep into that and talk about this crazy happenings of this card last night, got to give a shout out to my sponsor, of course. I got to wake up with some Noctane smelling salts because I have not felt great all day. And I didn't even drink last night or nothing. I mean, I had a drink with dinner. didn't even party or nothing like that. It was a tame night, and I woke up feeling all off and crazy and weird and like shit. So let's wake up a little bit and get ourselves some Noctane. Little boost here with the most potent bottle they have. So if you see a big reaction, that's why. Here we go. Hold on, I'm scared. Oh, yep. I was way too I was way too scared, and I didn't get my nose close enough, and then I got it hard. Oh man, woo! That definitely woke me up. Noctane smelling salts. That's what it'll do for you. So go check it out. Hit that QR code. There's a link in the description. Go check out their website. It's informative. It'll tell you everything you need to know. Show you the 3 tiers of bottles that they have, 3 different caps, the potencies and stuff, and tell you what it's all about. So go check it out. Thank you, Noctane, for the boost of alertness and for the sponsorship. Appreciate it. Always got to shout out the sponsor because, well, it helps me. It wakes me up for this show too. So before we get going into this gloomy Sunday, what the hell is that? Sunday. I was going to say weekend and I said Sunday. I don't know what that was about. Anyway, it sounded like a super old school English there. Oh, you know, back in the Sundays. I don't know what's happening. I told you it's fucking weird. Let's get into this shit before I do anything else weird. Here we go. Let's talk about this event from last night. The unfortunate UFC Vegas 107. Now, the reason why I have the big X here is because if you hadn't heard already, the main event, which was the headliner for this card, which was all over the posters, did not happen. It didn't take place. The fight didn't happen. That sucked. So let's see. We had a whole build up to this. Okay, there was the lead up to this fight was just not looking good because from the jump there was some visa issues going on with Oban Elliott, which I was looking forward to that fight between him and Ramiz Brahimaj or Brahima. I'm not sure if you say the J or not. It sounded like they weren't saying it, but either way, Oban Elliott and him were supposed to fight on this card, and that was like our first one of our first fight cancellations. So Brahimaj wound up fighting Billy Ray Goff, and it was a good outcome for him there. But it would have been interesting to see him fight Oban Elliott. So that sucked right off the bat. Elliott with visa issues. And then we had Seokion Ko versus Billy Ray Goff. That was canceled as well due to visa issues on Ko's side. So obviously Billy Ray Goff. I mean, if you don't think he's from here, what are you thinking? But he's not gonna have visa issues because we're here and his name's Billy Ray. But then we had some weight cutting issues. Well, actually before that even, I don't even know what happened to Jeremiah Wells. I think he got injured or something. It just says he withdrew. I'm not exactly sure what happened to him because there was so much going on here. He was supposed to fight Andreas Gustafsson, right? So there was all this talk because there's a little hype around Gustafsson right now, and there was all this talk about him being the first one to wear the UFC debut patch. I talked about that last week, or on Thursday, I should say. And there was all this going on. Well, he's supposed to fight Jeremiah Wells. Wells drops out, can't fight. So they're looking for another opponent for Gustafsson. It looks like Markel Medeiros was supposed to fight Balaji Oki, and he withdrew as well. I'm not sure why he withdrew either. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4 fights done, canceled before. And of course, in all these events, you usually have fights that get canceled or drop out, whether it be to injury, maybe they get rescheduled for something else. The UFC will move fights around. So a lot of times they'll write, like on Tapology, they write fizzled, like, oh, that was a rumor, it didn't really come to fruition, or rescheduled because it was put on a different event or something like that. These are all canceled. Every single 6 fights total canceled. That's more fights than was on the main card. That's more fights than there was on the prelims. And that's weird for the prelims. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there was only 4 prelim fights. That's how bad and that's how like downhill everything went for this card. Usually there's more prelims than there is on the main card, especially on fight nights. That didn't happen this time. So yeah, so then we had Markel Madero's withdraw from Balaji Oki. So Oki winds up getting a new opponent in Michael Aswell, making his UFC debut, who winds up taking over the first ever to wear the UFC debut patch on his kit. Unfortunately for him, he did not win his fight. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then we had Gustafsson winds up getting his fight canceled, who we talked about earlier. Andreas Gustafsson was supposed to fight Jeremiah Wells. Jeremiah Wells withdraws for whatever reason. Then his fight gets rescheduled with a new opponent, Trevin Giles. Coming into the weigh-ins, Trevin Giles injures himself because he fell and hit his head as he passed out during his weight cut. That's a goddamn shame, because that was supposed to be, that was going to be a pretty decent fight there, considering Trevin Giles stepping in, all this other shit, right? But that's a chance you take when you take a short notice fight. You come in at the last minute and all this other stuff. So, okay, whatever. Gustafsson's all over social media talking about hopefully they get me another opponent, but come on, dude, we're like at the weigh-ins. So you're probably not going to get anything, and he didn't. So that's a damn shame. Then we get to the fight night. Finally, all that's over with. Everyone's making their walks. The fights are going through. We wind up with 4 prelim fights. 4 motherfucking prelim fights. What are we doing? What the fuck is happening? I get the bad luck and I get the super last minute stuff, but not only are... Okay, so here's the thing. Everyone bitches and complains about the shitty undercards, right? How they're not worth it. They're worse than regional events, blah, 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 blah. I get it, but at least you're getting the fights. At least you're getting... I guess it doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter what you're getting or not getting, because all of it is shit right now. All of it is shit. This is all I hear over and over and over again. Boo, boo, fucking boo. Because everything is shit. And every time you think it's gonna be good, you're like, got a little bit of hope. You're like, I'm gonna be positive for this one. Then you get shit on. This event, everyone got shit on. Gotcha, bitch. That's exactly what the MMA god said when everyone was excited to watch these fights after a week off from the UFC. Well, so we get to the main card and after the 4 prelim fights, so it didn't take long. But maybe it did, because we had all decisions except for one that did get done in the first round. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then we get to the main card. Start off with a decision, go into another decision, finally get something surprisingly fun and exciting with the TKO. Then we get a submission. We're like, okay, we're on a roll. Moving into the co-main and the main. This is gonna be great. And we get another decision. So we're like, okay, this isn't looking good, because we got the women coming up for the main event. Blanchfield versus Barber. Not a lot of hype around this fight. Some shit talking going on. Barber's trying to sell the fight, or maybe she really doesn't like Blanchfield. Blanchfield's out there talking about how am I supposed to get excited for this fight when I'm not even sure she's going to show up. Did she know something, or is she just that intuitive? Because Barber didn't show up. They went into the night with everything good. Barber's still talking shit. The face-off was intense, but Barber missed weight by half a pound, but she missed weight. Not to mention Nascimento missed weight, and someone else missed weight too. I think Ketlin Vieira missed weight. No, Macy Chazon. No, Ketlin. I don't remember. Somebody else missed weight. Nascimento missed weight for sure. Yeah, it had to have been in that Vieira Chazon fight, because it says they fought at 144, which is strange. I don't even know. I couldn't even keep up. There's so many fucking things happening. So yeah, so then Blanchfield's talking about how, well, she's dropped out of so many fights before. It's only been 2, And Barbara brings up a good point when she argued that with the fact that they were for medical reasons and they were not just any old, like, my toe hurts. She had truthful, like, she tore all kinds of shit in her ankle one time, and the other time she had this crazy sickness, illness, or whatever, and that she's still dealing with, obviously. And then she was out of fighting for almost over a year because of the whatever the fuck was going on with her. Trent said, I hope Mayra Bueno Silva ends up fighting Erin Blanchfield and rocks her, because Blanchfield's shit talking last night was very uncalled for when Barbara couldn't control her medical issues. We know Bueno Silva is a beast, so I just said her name. Okay, I mean, that's not a bad call. I just don't know that Bueno Silva is up there in a position to fight Blanchfield, but you never know. Manon Fiorot did just beat Blanchfield, and Manon Fiorot, I feel like, probably hits harder than Bueno Silva. So, and you know, Blanchfield didn't really get rocked, but I think Manon is kind of fallen off a little bit. So maybe that's not a bad call. If it were to get made, but I think Blanchfield's gonna definitely be looking into getting a top 5 fight for sure, just because that's what she was looking at here. Finally, she's number 3, Barbara is number 4. But yeah, so the disrespect and stuff that Trent is talking about is what I'll get to here in just a minute, because Blanchfield wasn't happy for good reason and understandable, being that she was so just weary about what was going to happen coming into the fight. And then, you know, the weight issues, missing weight. It was only half a pound. Okay, I think I told Trent it was 1.5 pounds. That's what I thought. I think she came back, weighed in again, was still half a pound, and then they wouldn't let her cut anymore. They said that was it. You're gonna have to give up a percentage or don't fight. And she decided to fight. The problem is, which I wasn't, listen, I pay attention to these things sometimes. I notice these things a lot. I'm a dude. What can I say? You know, I make jokes about girls that have OnlyFans pages just by saying, hey, go check it out. She's not shy. But I didn't realize that Macy Barber got a little enhancement in the chest area. It's not outrageous, which is probably why I didn't notice. She's a small girl as it is, and apparently so then I'm scrolling through TikTok and I'm seeing somebody talking about her weight cut, a woman talking about her weight cut and the fact that, you know, she got some augmentation, and that might have been what caused her to miss that 1/2 pound and have such a horrible weight cut. Not a bad point, actually. Not a bad point, because if you're only missing by 1/2 pound, do those weigh that much when they're not gigantic? I mean, maybe. I don't know that much about implants. I don't know, but they definitely have some weight to them, so that could be the case. And by missing by only 1/2 pound, that's a damn shame. So then you give up 20%, and so then then I'm scrolling through TikTok again, and I know I'm all over the place, but this is how all over the place all this shit was. So I'm on TikTok again, scrolling through, and I see another person talking about the missed weight and the breast augmentation, right? So, and the guy's like, this is the most expensive breast implants a woman's ever gotten because you give up 20% of 100 grand basically, because that's how much she made in her last fight. He was breaking this down. Okay, I wish I could give credit where it's due. I don't know what the dude's name was. I was just scrolling, saw it, laughed, was like, damn, that's crazy. Because then he's talking about how she didn't wind up fighting at all. So then she doesn't get the money that she was supposed to get. And even her show money would have been like a certain amount. I'm not exactly sure how much it was, but so she's looking at 20 grand plus whatever she actually paid for those implants, on top of not fighting and on top of not getting paid anything. Now granted, as long as she's healthy and got through whatever problems she was having, that's the most important part. The money doesn't fucking matter. Nothing else matters. But that's where the shit talking comes in that Trent was talking about, which is Blanchfield was pissed about Macy Barber not coming out to fight. So, you know, actually, Trent was the one that texted me and was like, has this ever happened before? I was watching on a second screen with no sound, and I wasn't fully paying attention because I was like, oh, the fight will start soon. I was waiting for it to start, you know, I'm glancing over peripheral and I'm not seeing anything, so I'm not worried about it. Next thing you know, she's texting me asking me what happened. So props to Trent, she was paying attention more than I was. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's happening? Turn up the volume, and then I hear that the fight's canceled when they're moving into, they played the package or the preview for them fighting, which then leads into her walkout song. When that package was done, the lights stayed dark, nothing happened, no music, nothing. Now we're in the Apex, so who gives a shit? Because you're not, I mean, there's people there that paid for it, so they give a shit, but not as many as like what, 12 to 16,000 as they usually are. So that's, everyone's wondering what's happening. They cut to commercial, they come back, commentators are there, and they're like, so the fight is canceled for unknown medical reasons, and that's all we know. So she's not making the walk. And then they're talking about how Blanchfield was already talking before everything was happening about how she's missed fights before and stuff like this, and that's what her biggest worry was. So it's like, wow, this is a crazy turn of fucking events. How does this even happen with all of the shit that went down before we even got here? And then this happens, you know, for this to be the main event. So basically our main event was Mateusz Gamrot versus Ludovic Klein, which wasn't a bad fight. It wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't a bad fight, but it was only 3 rounds, and that's all we got. So on top of only having a 4-fight prelim, and then only having 5 fights, which is fine. I mean, that happens on pay-per-views and shit, but usually there's 1 or 2 title fights there, so that makes up for it. But we only get 5, and then we get this like kind of rushed co-main because yeah, it went to decision, but you know, it's done, it's over. Now let's lead into the main event, and that's where everything happens. But it doesn't. Everything else happens but the fight. And so the fight's canceled, they're done, close up shop, do the press conference after, and that's where Blanchfield spoke her mind, saying it was highly unprofessional, which I'm assuming she was talking about the weight cut thing. If you give her the benefit of the doubt, you think, okay, she's talking about the weight cut issue, right? She comes in half a pound over, but the stats will tell you that anybody that takes a fight with someone who misses weight and they still fight, the person that missed weight usually wins. So that's a big risk you take, especially when you're ranked higher than your opponent, even if it's only by 1. But you know, Macy hadn't fought in over a year, and she had all these health issues, so it's like, maybe give her a break, you know? Like, fuck, it's only half a pound, it's not. But she looked bad. She did not look good at all during that weight cut. When she's weighing in, sunken in cheeks, she just looked bad. Even though the face-off was intense, she had the energy for that, but the doctors wouldn't let her try to cut the extra half a pound. How you go back and cut however much, and then come back and still be half, I don't know, that's weird, but I guess it is what it is. So we don't get the fight. That's why I have the big X here over this, because the fight poster had Blanchfield versus Barber all over it, and we didn't even get that fight. So now Blanchfield also said in the very first interview, standing with one of the, you know, interviewers, like somebody like Megan O'Leary that would normally, it wasn't her, but you know, someone like her that stands back there in interviews is like, you know, what do you think about this, that, or the other thing? And Blanchfield's like, well, according to Hunter Campbell, she was having a seizure or something like that, and then medical issues, so they couldn't fight. And she was making her walk, like she was about to walk out, and then everything stopped and nothing happened. So it's a damn shame. And Barber, you know, Blanchfield was saying how it was unprofessional, how her coaches said never to give her the chance to fight her again because she's unreliable. But dude, if she was having fucking a seizure, Come on, man. That's where Trent was pissed. She's in the chat talking about it, and that's what I'm referring to. That's where she was pissed, and I know Senyo was mad about that too. Her girlfriend was mad too, and I'm like, I get it, because yeah, that's fucked. Like, you hear Blanchfield say that, but then I'm seeing all these people online talk shit too, and I'm like, man, am I missing something? In the end, Macy Barber shows shows proof. She's in a bed. What happened in this picture? Anyway, she's in a bed. She shows with all the everything on her. She says, "Not what I planned for a Sunday post. Thank you to everyone for the prayers and support. I owe an apology to UFC, Mick Maynard, Dana White, Sean Shelby, and Blanchfield MMA, which is Aaron. P.S. My life is not messy. That is just a bad hand. This is just a bad hand. We will get to the bottom of all of it, and be back." Now, she said, my life is not messy, because Blanchfield went into the post-fight press conference and was like, hey, she's a mess. She's like, not just in fighting, in everything. Her life is a mess. She needs to clean it up, and she needs to basically get her shit together. Which is a damn shame, because, regardless of what else is happening, if she was having a seizure, what the fuck was she even doing there? And the UFC knows that she had this whole issue where the doctors couldn't even like figure out what was wrong with her. They couldn't really tell her what the hell was wrong with her. So she finally starts to feel better. She gets back in shape, training camp, all this other shit. And she's ready to fight. And then this happens. So maybe there was no indication that she wasn't all right. But if you're out for that long and you're sick for most of that time, I feel like maybe a little more time should have been taken before actually taking the fight. I don't know. But she's saying that she owes an apology. So what's really happening here? Because we're saying, hey, we feel bad because Blanchfield's talking shit about her being unprofessional for having a seizure, while also other known medical issues. But yet she's saying she apologizes as if it's her fault, but it's really not her fault if she just had to see. What are we doing? What the fuck is happening? I don't know. This is where I'm fucking confused. I'm confused. And I mean, I feel bad for her regardless. I just think that maybe wait it out longer. I know you want to fight. I know you want to get back in there. You were the future. You talked about being the taking over that youngest fighter in the UFC to get a title or to win a championship, and unfortunately that's gone and passed, and it's over. You can't do that. You had injuries. You injured a knee, injured an ankle, had this sickness, illness, medical problems. So that's all done and over. But get yourself right 100%, and find out what the fuck is going on, and make 100% sure that it can't happen again before you come out here and fight. That's all I hope, because we don't need a tragedy. She doesn't need to lose her life because she pushed things too hard. And that's the way I feel. I'm like, man, just get healthy first, and we're happy to watch you fight, but get healthy first. But I also understand the other side of it, where they're frustrated. You see the girl had medical issues, but in the meantime getting a breast augmentation and all this other stuff. Well, I mean, I can see why they're talking shit. I don't fully agree with that. I think it's kind of fucked, but it is what it is. So sometimes you gotta watch what you're doing when you're in the public eye. But that's personal shit. Like, that's her choice. But she does have a career that relies on her being healthy. So I think that needs to come first. There's a lot of back and forth here. I'm not sure that we're ever gonna know fully. I'm sure we'll hear something. Maybe Macy will do some interviews sometime here in the near future, and we'll find out more. But as for now, that's what happened there. A lot to say about that, because there's just so much going on. The lead up and breakdown of all, just fuck, man. It's insane what happened leading up to this. So now, getting into the fights, we can go over all of them real quick, because there wasn't many. I mean, we're talking 9 fights. That's not even a double digit, and what we're used to having anywhere from 12 to 16 fights at times. So again, at least we got the fights, but damn, what the hell? So we start off the night with Ellis Ardelin versus Rayan Dos Santos. And again, unanimous decision. They got fight of the night. I mean, it was a good back and forth. You know, you could see Ardelin, you know, beat up Dos Santos a little bit there. And really, there's not a whole lot to talk about except for why did they get fight of the night? Well, I don't know. I don't know. There wasn't anything. There wasn't, I guess, because they went the full time. And I mean, I thought, well, so Gamrot and Klein, there was a lot of grappling and a lot of just basic, like, you know, control time and dominant, you know, positions. So I guess that's why, because there was a lot more striking in this one, which is rare for the women, and there was a lot of damage and stuff. So they got fight of the night. Big ups to them, to, you know, landed on a good card and had a good performance in order to get that, and they both get a bonus. So congrats to them. But then we move on from the women, and we got Balaji Oki versus Michael Aswell. Aswell making his UFC debut, being the first one to wear that debut patch that's going to wind up on a Tops card, as I spoke about on Thursday. So, and Balaji Oki was supposed to fight Markel Medeiros. So, you know, there's a little bit of hype around Oki. You know, he's a fun fighter to watch. He was coming off a loss to Chris Duncan by guillotine, but before that, he had a good win and came off the Contender Series with a win. So, you know, I think people see some stuff in him that show a lot of potential, and that's why there's a lot of people, you know, that kind of talk him up a little bit here and there. He showed some pretty good skills in this fight. Aswell turned it up at the end of the first round, and while Oki looked damn good throughout that first round, Aswell turned it up at the end, and he kind of wobbled Oki a little bit there. He caught him with a good combination. He did it again in the second round, maybe not as noticeable, but you can tell he put together some good combinations, and he landed on Oki, and, you know, he put up a damn good fight, and Oki was landing a lot of shots as well, a lot of big shots. And Aswell showed a really good chin to hang in there throughout that whole time while he's getting touched, you know, all the way through, basically, by someone like Oki, who looked hyped, pumped. He looked like he was in damn good shape. That fool is a specimen, and he was one of the ones that looked the best in all the weight, you know, in all of the weigh-in pictures and videos and stuff like that. So it was a good showing between them. I thought this was a good fight. I'm not sure why this one wouldn't have gotten fight of the night, I guess. Maybe because it wasn't really back and forth. But again, Oki got the unanimous decision win. Ardelin got the unanimous decision win. Maybe I missed something in that first fight, but I didn't see anything that truly outmatched this one. I feel like they were pretty close. So maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, then we move into our first finish of the night with Jordan Levitt versus Kurt Holobaugh. And, you know, Kurt Holobaugh being a former Tough alum, and he fought for the championship, I think, to become the Ultimate Fighter, and lost. But I think he lost. I always get him and the guy he fought mixed up. Austin Hubbard. Yeah. No, he won. See, I messed it up because... So he was the winner of the Ultimate Fighter. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Jordan Levitt came in. Hadn't seen him fight in a minute. I feel like it was a minute, but it was actually May of last year. So yeah, it was just over a year. And he was on November of 23. That was a grappling match in May of last year. So it had been a minute when he lost to Chase Hooper. And he lost by submission. And then he turns it around and gets a good performance here against Holobaugh and gets the submission of his own to get a performance of the night bonus with the Anaconda choke. And it was pretty impressive. I mean, he had that shit in deep, and he definitely sunk it in there and made it known that that was a complete submission and domination of Kurt Holobaugh. That was a first round finish, a minute and 39 seconds in. So that was a big win for Jordan Levitt there. Moving on to a prime example of what I was saying. The guy that misses weight winds up being the guy that wins. And Nascimento was the one that missed the weight. He beats Rafael Filho by unanimous decision. And yeah, I mean, he didn't miss by a lot, but still he missed the weight. He was still a little bit heavier than his opponent, and he turns it around and gets a unanimous decision win. It's a nasty elbow there. He lands in that second picture on the bottom. So there's your third decision of the night, and that leads us into the main card, where we got Zach Reese versus Dusko Todorovic. And Zach Reese looked pretty good in this one, landing some good shots in Todorovic. But again, nothing outrageous. The most of the finishes in this card were pretty fun. Everything else was just a bit just happened. But I mean, this one, I mean, watching Zach Reese, yeah, I again, not spectacular. He got beat up a little on his own, but he did wind up with the unanimous decision win over Dusko Todorovic, and he moves on. Let's see, I think he was coming off a loss. Yes, he was coming off a loss there, so gets himself back into the win column with Todorovic. That makes 2 in a row for him because he lost against Abdul Malik back in November of last year. So second loss in a row for Todorovic. He's gonna have to, put something together and get a big win in his next fight. Otherwise, that makes 3 in a row for him, and that's never good. Moving on to another woman fight, Ketlen Vieira. And I mean, I'm talking, like, I usually gather pictures, to show for visuals, because I can't really show video. I can't show the highlights because I get copyright, all that bullshit. So I have to watch what I show, right? Which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. But when you look for pictures, you can't, unless somebody got a good picture of what happened, you're not gonna find it. I feel like the photographers in this fight were just like, what's happening tonight? Not a whole lot to take pictures of, or they just couldn't get good. Maybe they were cursed tonight too, and couldn't get good shots because I couldn't find a whole lot. But Ketlen Vieira, I talked about her being a little bit bigger than Shazon. She seems a little big for the weight class as it is, and she winds up getting the win by unanimous decision, which I believe he wound up being the one that missed weight. God, how do I know? I wish it would tell me that. It just says that they fought it at a higher weight. So anyway, I'm just checking to see if I can find anything that says. No, I guess not. Well, it is what it is. Ketlen Vieira gets the win here over Macy Shazon. To round out the women fighting, she was coming off that loss to Kayla Harrison, and Shazon was coming off of 2 wins over Pani Kianzad and Mayra Buena Silva. So Buena Silva was that nasty cut the last time, and then she turns around and loses to Ketlen Vieira. So she's going to be looking to bring it back to the win column there. Next up, we have another finish finally, with Dustin Jacoby versus Bruno Lopez. This was a nasty one with that big left hook that Jacoby landed on Lopez, or Lopes. I'm not sure because he spells it Lopes. I know Lopez to be Lopez. Diego Lopez is Diego Lopez, and he spells it Lopes. So who knows? It's a personal preference, I guess. Some people call it Lopes. Some people say Lopez. I don't know what it is. I think I heard them saying Lopes in the broadcast, but who cares? Now we're arguing how to say a last name. But Dustin Jacoby with the big win here. You can see Lopes got dropped and slouched against the cage as he took that big hit, and it was a nasty one. And Jacoby just looking good with that in the first round, 1 minute 50 seconds into the first round, and that gives Dustin Jacoby, his second win in a row, both by finishes on the feet. So Dustin Jacoby looking to put together a good string of wins here, because his last 3 wins have all been finishes. Hell, more than that, his last 4 wins have all been finishes. Now he has 4 losses in between there where he got finished himself by Dominic Reyes, but the rest of those were unanimous decision losses. I guess there's a split decision mixed in there too, but either way, Dustin Jacoby just putting up some numbers there, and that's good for him. He may not be fighting the biggest name opponents, but at the same time, still putting together those wins. Lopes was coming off of a win as well by unanimous decision, so that puts him in the loss column now. So let's move on to another finish. This was a pretty fun one as well. Ramiz Brahimaj versus Billy Ray Goff. So a lot of people were high on Billy Ray Goff on this one, and yet he got finished in the first round as well. 3 minutes and 16 seconds into the first round, Brahimaj sinks in this nasty standing guillotine choke and completely puts Goff to sleep, like out cold. Releases him and he bounces his head off the canvas. I mean, he wasn't high up, but he still, he was out with his eyes open. So that was a nasty guillotine there. Brahimaj gets the performance of the night bonus there for that one. And then that brings us to, there we go. What the hell happened there? That was weird. That brings us to the co-main / main because this was the last fight of the night. Mateusz Gamrot versus Ludovic Klein. The rumors are everyone was talking about Ludovic Klein being the one that was going to have the upper hand here. That Gamrot was looking like he was getting old, and I guess he's 34. Like, how is he that old? But everyone was talking about his age. Everyone was talking about how he lost to Dan Hooker. And everything sounded negative, but before he lost to Dan Hooker, he was on a 3-fight win streak with wins over Jalen Turner, Rafael Fiziev, and Rafael Dos Anjos. Those are big names. He's lost to Dan Hooker and Beneil Dariush. Like, get the fuck out of here. I was surprised by that one, but apparently everyone was recency bias. His last fight didn't look great and whatever, but they were talking about Ludovic Klein being able to get the best of him here because he was on a 6-fight win streak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with wins over Roosevelt Roberts and Thiago Moises, AJ Cunningham. So not even big names, but still a 6-fight win streak for Klein, and he looked good in most of those fights. But a lot of them went to decision. So Mateusz Gamrot just basically fucking controlled the shit out of him with grappling and wrestling. He didn't let him up. Every time he did, he got him down quickly. Klein just was he got tired from all the defense on the ground, and he couldn't do much. When it came, it was just like you would start on the feet, end up on the ground, and it just stayed there the whole time. And Gamrot just showed what he could do on the ground. So dominant performance for him. And that's the way we ended the night, because then the Blanchfield and Barber stuff happened, and that was it. That was the end of the night. That's how we ended 9 fights. Not a ton of finishes throughout those fights. And, it was an underwhelming night of fights. 1, 2, 3. We had 3 finishes out of 9 fights. I mean, that's better than 3 finishes out of 12, but fuck, man, what are we doing? What are we doing? I guess maybe I don't think if Gamrot and Klein went to 5 rounds. I heard somebody complaining about that, saying that should have been a 5-round fight, even though it was co-main. But I don't think Klein would have been able to turn it around. He was too tired, and it just wasn't working for him. He was just being controlled and dominated by Gamrot. So what was going to change? I mean, I know we've seen stuff like Leon Edwards with the head kick and stuff like that. Things can change, but what was going to change in that fight? I don't think anything was. I think Klein was just He just wasn't there. He wasn't there for it and couldn't do anything about it. Frustrated, and he was probably happy it was over. So that's it for UFC Vegas 107. Lots of drama, lots of craziness. Not a lot of fights, not a lot of finishes. Not a lot to talk about past that. I mean, I did spend almost 45 minutes on it, but that's because I'm talking about the main event and what happened there, and there was a lot to talk about with that one. So I guess I got the content. I'm long-winded sometimes. What can I say? Breaking it down, you know, when there's not much else to talk about, you talk about the things that were the craziest that happened that night, and that's what it was. So other than that, we had the boxing match that happened, which happened on Saturday night as well. I didn't really watch any of it. Like I said, it's just a strange weekend. I kind of forgot that this was happening, and then I started seeing the highlights, and I'm like, oh yeah. But I was watching the UFC while doing other things, and yeah, I just was like, I don't know. No, I wasn't in the mood to watch boxing, I guess. I don't know. I'm a bad fan, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Who cares? It was a weird night. So, but yeah, we had Caleb Plant versus Armando Resesndiz. I think that's how you say it. Resesndiz. And then Jamal Charlo versus Thomas Lamana. And yeah, Charlo put on a fucking show, that's for sure. When it came down to that, he was able to score 3 knockdowns in 3 different rounds, in rounds 3, 4, and 5, and then wound up getting the finish. Let's see, hold on, I think I did. Yes, I did. Okay, cool. So yeah, he dropped him in 3 different rounds and winds up getting the finish in the 6th round, I believe. So you can see here him landing those punches, putting in that work, and Charlo did his part in getting that setup to happen because both these guys needed to win to be able to fight each other. Caleb Plant versus Jamal Charlo, after their beef from back in the day. There was a little bit of heat going on during the press conference and face-offs and stuff, but you know, Charlo came out ready to win, and he did just that by winning in the 6th round, I believe it was. And yes, in round 6, in the beginning of round 6, it says the ringside doctor advised the referee to stop the bout. So yeah, he gets the TKO win, and pretty impressive fight for Charlo on that one. And then Caleb Plant did not do his part because he looked sluggish. Everything that I read, all the highlights I saw, he didn't look like himself. He was a big favorite to win in this fight. I think at least like plus 600 or some shit like that, or I'm sorry, minus 600 or something like that. And then yeah, he went on and just put in a lackluster performance. I mean, it went to decision, but Resesndiz was able to get a win, but one judge, I guess, still gave Plant like 2 rounds. Either way, Plant just did not do his thing, did not hold up his end of the bargain. It sounds like they're still trying to see if they want, you know, make that fight. Sounds like Charlo still wants to fight Caleb Plant, regardless of him losing, probably because he's like, hey, I'm gonna work this fool now if he comes in looking like that, with the performance that Charlo put on. So I mean, besides the fact that, you know, Caleb Plant didn't look good, Resesndiz did his thing and came back with the upset. And you know, there's nothing more exciting than an upset, especially if you're a fan of that fighter who's supposed to go in there and lose and then turns it around and gets a big win. He may not have got the finish, but to make Caleb Plant look like that in the fight, that's a big win for him. So that was that for boxing. And I got a couple other little things here real quick before we wrap it up, because it is going to get wrapped up here pretty quick. So little nugs that got announced. Noche UFC was supposed to take place in Guadalajara, Mexico. And we were hearing some things leading up to this weekend about the arena or whatever the venue was that they were building out there. It does say the arena in Guadalajara, about them having some issues with finishing that building. So it was kind of getting to the point where the UFC's like, we're not gonna be able to have the event there. So Noche UFC was supposed to happen for the first time, and this will be the third year they do UFC Noche. And last year was a pay-per-view. The year before that, it was a fight night. And then this year was supposed to be a pay-per-view again. It was supposed to be UFC 320, and instead it turns into a fight night because they've now moved it to San Antonio, Texas, because of the issues with the arena. It says the Noche event will now be held as a fight night card. Several weeks ago, reports began to emerge that the arena in Guadalajara that was scheduled to host Noche UFC 320 was experiencing delays in the construction. So the delays are so bad that they had to move the event. Whether it would be ready or not, the UFC probably doesn't want to take the chance of finding out some bad shit happening because they rushed the construction or anything like that, or having issues with any of the production or anything because of, you know, rushing stuff. So when you get things done last minute like that, you can have a lot of problems. So I understand it, but it does suck because it turns the pay-per-view into a fight night. They didn't really have a set main event yet for that card, and maybe that's why, because they knew there was issues and they didn't want to set anything yet for that. But we have heard a few different announcements coming in for that night, but nothing big, nothing crazy. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. It is now moved to San Antonio, Texas, and it is now a fight night happening on September 13th, or yes, 13th. Which is interesting as well, because, you know, TKO Boxing was supposed to be, Dana White was supposed to be the promoter for that fight between Canelo and Crawford. And then they changed that, and that was kind of weird, because then they also changed the night from September 12th, which was originally the announcement for that boxing match, and then they changed it to September 13th, which conflicts with the UFC on a pay-per-view night. And then they say that the promoter is going to be whoever with the Riyadh season instead of TKO Boxing and Dana White. So maybe a lot of that had to do with all this going on, or maybe all this was a decision easier made because of the boxing match going on that night. Who knows? We'll find out. But none of this is happening until September. So in the end, I'm sure we'll find out more details as it presses forward, or it just won't matter and everybody will stop worrying about it and not care, except for people like me who pay attention to this stuff. So that was announced last night as well during the weird UFC Vegas 107. And the last bit of news, I did this a little backwards. I covered the event first because there was so much to talk about, and then we only had very little bit of combat sports news, so we did that second. And I might be changing up my kind of flow here and how I do things and stuff like that. So be on the lookout for that coming up soon. You know, first we changed having 2 nights instead of just 1. Now I'm thinking about changing up the whole process, but it'll just be the way things look. So I'm gonna look into that. I was gonna try to do it for this, but I was trying to prep everything basically all day today to lead up to tonight. So it's kind of short notice for me to try to change all that. That'd be a bad decision. That's when things go wrong. So I left everything like normal. I just changed up the order. Maybe it'll happen Thursday. Depends on how my week goes. If not, look for it next week, I guess. We'll see. Either way, the other bit of news, yet another lawsuit against the UFC is taking place. This time headed up by Phil Davis, who's now in the PFL. Used to be in the UFC, fought in Bellator. He is a part of a lawsuit now where they're alleging that the UFC impairs the ability of would-be UFC competitors to attract a critical mass of top-level MMA fighters necessary to compete with the UFC at the top tier of the sport. That was said by Eric Kramer, lead attorney for the fighters that are involved in this lawsuit. I think I also read that they're not even really looking for money, but they are looking for things not to continue to happen the way they have been recently and in the past with the UFC I'm gonna bring up real quick a picture so I can read off of it, because there was some other details that told me a little more. So it says the suit. Okay, no, that's that one. Let me look at this one. We intend to prove the UFC engaged in a predatory scheme to undermine would-be competitors to the UFC, which the suit claims had the effect of maintaining and enhancing the UFC's dominance, and therefore impairing the careers and pay not just for the UFC's own fighters, but also of professional MMA fighters like Phil Davis, competing for MMA promotions across the MMA industry. The newest antitrust lawsuit isn't seeking any financial damages, but instead the fighters are looking for an injunction to prevent the UFC from continuing its allegedly illegal scheme, with hopes that a successful argument in court could lead to create the conditions for free and fair competing among let's see, does it say among professional MMA promotions, which in turn would bolster the careers and pay of professional MMA fighters. So basically they're saying they're trying to get it where the UFC doesn't have such a monopoly, and that, you know, people will look at other MMA promotions as a viable source of, you know, somewhere to be for a career. So I mean, I get it. I understand that. Phil Davis just had to say, I am proud to stand up for professional MMA fighters to unlock the UFC's stranglehold on the entire sport. They're just looking for a way to make the outside entities a better place to go, because right now the UFC just smashes everybody and puts it, and either buys them out or does everything in their power to make sure that they don't get the big names, that they don't get the big events, the big venues, all that shit. So that's all that it's about. It's kind of cool to see that they're not really just going for money, they're going for an actual cause. The money part is already taken care of with the last one, at least for some fighters, I guess, that got money out of it, and so it sounded like a decent amount of money for most of those guys. And now they're looking to change the way that things are run, and, you know, how things are outside of the UFC, so that way UFC fighters that leave the UFC have somewhere to go and can still get paid a good amount, while also being able to get the notoriety and exposure that they could get from the UFC, because the UFC has such a monopoly on everything that basically outside of the UFC nobody really does much. So, and we've seen that with all these promotions that go away because they can't seem to do what the UFC does with promotion. And part of that is on them. I mean, they gotta, but you know, part of that is on them. They gotta step up and they gotta do their thing, and they gotta hire people that really have a passion, and they gotta learn how to be that well-oiled machine that the UFC is. So it's not just on the UFC, you know, being nefarious. It's also on them putting forth the effort and hiring the right people. And I know that's difficult, but you also got to get people that know what the fuck they're doing and know about MMA, and don't just, you know, isn't just some random hobby for them. Christian Flores said made $800 was going to be $1K, but the main event was canceled. Ah, damn. Well, I'm glad you still won that much, man. So big ups to you. Good job on that. I know I've said it in the past, but I need to bet with you, because you seem to always make money. How much are you putting up though? That's my thing, because I'm always skeptical. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to put up a bunch of money and then fucking lose like I always do. But I guess you without taking the chance, you don't win that kind of money, which is why he's doing that. I wish you would have got the 1K. What was your outcome to get that 1K? What was gonna be needed to be able to get that win? Real quick before I end this. Anyway, so yeah, it's good to know that someone's out there trying to fight for, you know, fighters to get better opportunities outside of the UFC. Don't know where it's going to get them though, because right now PFL and everyone else is just a fucking far away, distant competitor to the UFC. No one's even close right now, and that's why the UFC is just sitting back, coasting, not giving a shit and putting whatever out there because everyone's gonna watch it anyway, and fucking yeah, blind loyalty. Those that know what I'm talking about are gonna be angry. Because I shouldn't even say it, but anyway, Christian, thanks for joining in, man. I'm happy that you made money. Sucks that the main event dropped out. That's, I mean, an extra $200 for you would have been nice to make that even 1K, but big ups to you on making $800. That's badass. Come back next weekend for the watch party and let me know what you're betting, and maybe I'll join in with you on that and see if we can actually come back Thursday and let me know, because I will be live Thursday to do the preview show for UFC 316. And you can let me know what you're betting there, if you want to, you know, share the wealth, because I'm not taking money. Oh shit, I just realized I did something wrong. Oops, let me get back to this. Stop that. There we go. Now let's do this correctly. Will there be a watch party? Yes, sir. There will be a watch party. So I'll be talking about that on Thursday as well. So come back for Thursday's preview to UFC 316. Oh, you'll be in New York Saturday. All right. Well, if you jump in, you jump in. Considering going to the event. Okay, nice. But yeah, so come back on Thursday. Let me know what's up. Thanks for everybody joining in. Christian, appreciate you. Good job on winning that money. Trin, thank you for your input as well. Trin was feeling pretty hardcore about the whole situation with Blanchfield, which I fully understand. My mom was in here. Thank you for that as well. Thank you to everybody for joining in and for watching. I appreciate you guys. Come back Thursday for the preview of UFC 316 and any other combat sports news that might happen between now and then. That's it for me. I'm out of here. Take it easy. Peace.